What's going on, everyone? I'm Matthew Dyer, and this is the Canvas Café. So Canvas Café is a platform where musical artists can come and showcase their talents. Each episode, they'll chat with me, followed by a performance, an acoustic performance of one of their songs with me at the piano. So I started Canvas Café because initially, if I'm honest, I just wanted to fill up some timeline space on the Instagram, to keep the fans engaged in between my own musical projects. I wasn't sure how serious I was going to take it, and it was just a side thing, But I thought, I can develop this. It'd be a good chance for me to meet new artists and also perform with different artists. And given the current climate that we're in, with venues not able to accommodate artists, it will be good for them to come and perform in a professional setting. So we had a launch day. I invited a couple of my friends, and we just spoke about anything and everything to do with music. And that leads me to the first guest. Who should be the first guest on the Canvas Café? And I thought a lot of people still don't really know what I do or who I am. So I thought I'd put myself in the hot seat and be the first guest of the Canvas Café. So who is Matthew Dyer? I'm a musician, a producer and songwriter. Born and raised in northwest London, grew up in Wembley, and eventually moved to Hertfordshire when I was about 10, 11. If I'm honest, I didn't really have any passion for making music in the beginning, although I did have the knowledge of various artists. My mum and dad had quite an eclectic vinyl collection, so I would say, not just, because they're Jamaican, obviously there's going to be a reggae influence, but it wasn't just reggae, it was, soul music, R&B, the Motown stuff, so it was quite varied, the music collection that they had. So, without even realizing it, I was acquiring this knowledge, but still I didn't really have a passion for making it. I started playing violin when I was about 9 years old, but I didn't really enjoy it, if I'm being honest. I wanted to play football. I was convinced I was going to be a footballer, and I didn't take, learning the violin serious because, at that age, it was kind of more of a chore than something that I enjoyed. It wasn't really seen as a hobby. I just thought I had to do it because it's just one of those things that you do as a kid. You learn an instrument. But I was sporty. If it wasn't going to be football, it was cricket, it was basketball, it was, anything to do with sports. But I do regret not pursuing that. Even if it wasn't going to be my main instrument, I regret it because just to have that theory and that knowledge, sight reading and things like that, that would have been great to have. But I abandoned it and I didn't pursue it. So then there was secondary school. I still was fixated on becoming a footballer. That didn't work out. Turns out I wasn't as good as I thought I was. And I was kind of disillusioned because, I like to draw. Art was my thing. I love to create, but I hadn't figured it out in terms of what I was going to put that creative energy into. Music wasn't the thing yet, even though I enjoyed listening to music, it wasn't something that I thought, was going to be a career of mine. I didn't think about it at all like that. And I was doing guitar at secondary school. And again, it was just another instrument to do while you're at school. I wasn't really taking it seriously. And then I stopped doing that. But then I also thought, well, I'm not going to do my art as a career. So what do I do? So I was very disillusioned. Didn't know really what I wanted to do with my life. And I went to uni and I did architecture because it's, has the art and creative background. And it wasn't that I disliked it, but it just didn't give me that fire. It didn't fuel me with that passion to really pursue it. But I did it anyway. I started the course anyway. So while I was at uni, I was listening to a lot of D'Angelo. I was listening to a lot of Raphael Sadiq, Jay Dilla, that soul, that R&B, the real instruments, the live feel, the band feel. And it's crazy because I'd given up violin and guitar, but for some reason I was drawn to these instruments that I was hearing, so D'Angelo's Voodoo is one of my favorite albums of all time, Spanish Joint, The Root, those songs are my favorites. Raphael Sadiq's Instant Vintage album really drew me in. Jay Dilla. I mean, what can I say? He's my favorite beat maker. Period. You know, he samples, but it's the way he flips the samples and turns it into something that you just could never imagine could sound the way it did. So it was listening to them that made me think, I think it's music I want to get into, you know? And it's weird because, like I say, I'd given up the violin and guitar, but it took listening to them to make me get that passion for it. And now I was like, well, now I need to learn these instruments again so I can make music just like them. But I had no music knowledge. So what do? I started sampling. And that's where my mum and dad's vinyl collection came in handy. So I could go back and start sampling those tracks and make my own beats. So how do I get into this? So I just went on YouTube. I was like, learning, beat makers. This is before I even started to learn piano.
So when you got the Fruit Loop as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I had everything.
And I was like, what?
And I went on YouTube, and there was this guy called Booney Mayfield who I've spoke to you about. He's a YouTube producer, and he had his MPC. I was like, oh, that's how you chop up samples. That's how you make a beat. This is easy. I can do this. So I saved up. I got my MPC 1000, but I didn't touch it for like 3-4 weeks because I didn't know how to use it. So I was just like, well, I got it.
Right. But was it cheap as well, aren't they?
Yeah. So I turned it on. I was like, I don't know how to use this shit. But I eventually got the courage because it was fear. I was intimidated by this machine. I was like,
it's got like legacy.
Yeah, exactly.
And like Dillard one of
these. You know, and then I was making, you know, like loops, and it was whack. It was awful. But I put it away, and then I got it out again. I was like, let me learn this shit. And I started loading up samples and stuff like that. And I got better and better. And eventually I started putting out, well, I didn't put it out, but I was making a good batch of beats that, you know, was nowhere near on a Dilla level, obviously. But I was, you know, this is good. Yeah. And then obviously I really, really, really tried to be like Dilla. And I even bought the MPC 3000 limited edition one, just like Dilla, the exact one, and carried on making beats. And I would go to vinyl stores and collect old jazz vinyls and sample them. And I was, you know, making progress. And this is the time where I would then come into contact with you, and we started my first EP. I mean, I've had so many first EPs, but
what a black cloud.
I was going to see if you wanted to say it, because this is going out. There's some people like Black Lounge.
Because I said it to him the other day, because I was listening to my iPod, like the old one, and I actually said that tune. Was it Bread?
Yeah.
Bread, and then the Dawn, and I was Jesse. Like, whoa, like what are you doing with this? Like,
I do that as well. Like it'll just come up randomly on my iTunes, and I'll send it to Matt, and Matt's not really.
He's not. That's what I'm saying.
And I'm like, do you know how many times? I don't know what's wrong with.
Because he put a video out, and then he took it down. And was like, nah, I don't like that. I don't want to be a rapper. I was like, dude, that is good.
Oh yeah, we've got to get into that as well.
That is good content. Like, he sort of like set the scene. It was soulful.
It
wasn't your typical like. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but it was because it had a sample in it, and no, well, so two reasons. So I was making these beats, and we actually recorded with them, Jesse Jebinair, but I would make these beats, and they were like, as I say, nowhere near Dilla, but it was close to his style, but I didn't feel good about it. I was like, okay, so I've managed to get close. Well, not close, but you know, it's
do you know how many years it takes people to be like?
No, but it wasn't that. It was the fact that it wasn't my style. I spent so long trying to perfect the style, but which wasn't my style. It's Dilla's style. You know, the legend. For me, he's the best. He passed away now, obviously, but definitely. For me, he's the best beat maker. Period. So I got to a point where I was like, I don't want to put this out. This is not me. I know these vinyls that I was collecting, the samples that I was using. I was like, I want to play what's going on here. I want to learn these instruments. I'd be able to identify all these different instruments. I want to play all of them. Very ambitious, because I only play piano and a little bit of guitar now, so it's not like I've learned shitloads. But I wanted to really, learn the art of music making, composing, read music, learn an instrument. So I had to stop the EP. I just was like, I can't remember the discussion we had, but I just ended up not putting it out. and I started to learn piano.
I think the sample thing was a big deal. Like I remember the conversation about it. It was like, well, this can never be sold, and it was like, like what?
Yeah.
And then after that, it was like, okay, moving on. I think after that, you started to pursue piano after that as well. So
but then this is what brought on the next delay. It's like, well, I know I can't put out any music until I've become a good pianist. And, you know, so it was just delay after delay. And I started off doing classical piano, but I didn't really like it. Well, no, that's a lie. I did like it, but it wasn't the direction I needed to go in.
for sure.
So I went to find a jazz pianist. Funny story, actually. I Googled jazz piano teacher in London. And because I learnt some basics, but I needed proper lessons. I needed a proper teacher. So I Googled jazz piano teacher in London, and I found this guy and got his contact details. And I rang him up. So I said, yeah, I'm looking to start doing jazz now. You know, can you help me out? And, you know, how much do you charge, blah, blah, blah. And he was like, yeah, X amount, you know, come through, whatever, you know, first session, see how you go and you see if you want to pursue it, you know, afterwards. So, okay, cool. Yeah. What's your address? Blah, blah, blah. And I got his address and I'm really excited because I'm thinking, yeah, I'm going to be a, you know, sick, you know, jazz pianist. I'm going to get my sexy, you know, jazz chords going and ninth chords. I'm going to be like the next D'Angelo, man. Yeah. And so the day came of the lesson and, I was about to leave to go out and my mum was like, are you sure you want to do lessons with someone you've, you know, met from online? I was like, well, yeah, I don't know anyone else, so why not? She's like, just be careful. I was like, whatever, man. Come on, I'm an artist, man. I need to do this. So I was like, yeah, I'm going to do this. So I went out and I got to the road and so I got the postcode, like, you know, got to the road and I rang him and I was like, oh, yeah, I'm here. I'm on your street. What door number is it? And he's like, such and such. So I went to the door, rang the doorbell. He comes down and I was like, oh, yeah, Matthew, nice to meet you, blah, blah. He's like, yeah, nice to meet you, you know, yeah, just up here. So I went up and I'm really excited. I'm gassed. Like, this is the beginning of my journey, man. And I get to the top of the stairs and he's like, yeah, just through here. And then
sounds like a horror story.
Just down here.
So I went and I went through the door and I opened the door and there was nothing in the room.
What, just a bed?
Yeah, there was nothing in the room but a bed.
So, jazz, all right?
So immediately I'm like, shit, my mum was right. And so I've gone in first.
Yeah.
Have you seen
rookie mistake?
Have you seen Pulp Fiction?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm thinking, yo. So I tense up straight. But it's good to know that I didn't panic. This because I was, as far as I'm concerned, I was gonna die. So I tensed up, and I was like, so where's the piano? And he's like, oh, it's just down here. I was like, okay. So we went to the next room and there was a piano. So I was like, oh, and you teach? And he's like, yeah. I was like, okay.
What did you think?
Yeah.
But then there was just awkward silence for like 3 seconds. Now 3 seconds is a long time.
Yeah, well, in that situation.
1, 2, 3. Of just silence. And then he's like, oh, you're here for the lessons, aren't you?
What?
I was like, yeah. So he was renting out that room. So he thought I was coming to visit the room. So I was like, no, I'm here for the lessons. So and I was pleased to find out he was actually a teacher and he started playing. But I was still like, just looking around and shit. But that was my first experience with my jazz teacher. But he's a cool guy. Like, honestly, he's been playing since he was like 5, 6. So that's where it began.
Yeah.
And where was we? Yeah. So I from there started learning and getting better at my craft, and eventually was able to put an EP out. I'm sure I've skipped some steps, but yeah, it was that but that process though, of just learning new chords, you know, learning an instrument, I felt empowered. I felt, now I know what I'm doing,
like that,
you know?
Yeah.
And even though I wasn't the best player technically, I knew what I was doing. I knew how to
from
compose.
nothing to like that. Like, that's a big step, man.
Yeah, like that feeling of being able to like, oh, I've got this in here or in here, and then being able to put it down. Like that's a big step. Because before that, it's just frustration. It's just I can't use these samples. Can't do it myself.
So yeah, that's how the piano journey started. It led me to create my first EP, November Came and Went, which has 4 songs on it. It's currently out now. How do I describe the sound? I mean, I wanted that EP to show my range as a producer. You know, the songs are not too different from each other, but they do say different things about me. You know, one of the songs is City Love featuring Jebine. It's a jazz song. Another song which also features Jebine is Till the Morning Light, which is more smooth, laid back, kind of soulful and R&B type track. And then we did a remix to that song and I made it a bit more modern, should we say, but still kept it, you know, nice and soulful. And then the last track on the EP is called Fortnight, which features Scarlett Fagan, which is just a belt of a track. She has a great voice. The drums are crazy on that. And I just wanted each track to be different and to show people, this is me, this is what I'm capable of. I can do this type, this type, this type, that type. So I also wrote the lyrics to the EP as well. How did I get into songwriting? Why write the songs? Well, I don't sing. I've always wanted to. I'm very envious of people that can sing. And so to make up for that, I feel like I have to do as much as possible behind the scenes, you know, to really imprint my vision, you know, on the track. So all the songs that I've written are about me and my life and my journey. And why I got into that, I just felt, well, why stop at producing? You know, I felt it was the next step. You know, you produce these songs, tell a story as well, you know, so I wrote to it as well. And I felt also not that it came easy, but because, you know, back in my younger days, I used to rap, you know, I was good with, you know, the pen and the pad and coming up with stories and, you know, funny stories, you know, vulnerable stories. I felt I was really good at, you know, putting that, you know, to music. So I thought, you know, I know it's not the same as, you know, writing a song for a singer is not the same as rap, obviously, but I felt like I had some experience in that background, you know, so why not? I can only write about things that's happened in my life. You know, I'm not one of those songwriters that can just create a story from nothing. It has to be real, you know, and even if it's not blatantly obvious that it's about me, it's always about me, you know, whether I use metaphors or whatever, or, you know, just ways in which to kind of disguise, you know, the fact, but it's always about me. It can only come from, you know, my past experiences, whether it's relationships, family problems, friendship problems, whatever, life struggles, whatever. It has to be from me and my experiences. I wanted to kind of work with singers, and the reason why I stopped rapping is because I did feel that there was kind of a barrier, you know, there's this US barrier. I felt like rappers couldn't really access the US because they didn't understand our, you know, our slang, our terminology. And, you know, UK rap is thriving now. But at the time, I just felt like, will they get me, you know, or any, you know, rapper that I work with. And that's not to say I don't want to work with any rappers anymore. Of course I do. But just at the time, I felt it was better for me to, you know, work with singers. And I found, thankfully, 2 great singers, you know, in Jebine and Scarlett Fagan. I say this all the time, and I hope they don't mind me comparing them to these artists that I'm about to compare them to. But I liken Jebine to Erykah Badu, and when I think of Scarlett Fagan, I think of Amy Winehouse. You know, so to be, and I genuinely mean that. You know, I think they're 2 great singers, and I asked them to appear on the EP, and I just thought, you know, they would take it to the next level. So I'm really happy that I managed to get them on board. I learned to stop being a perfectionist. With me, it can take me so long to be happy with the final product. And I'm not the only one. Of course, musicians do this all the time. But at some point, you just have to abandon it and obviously still put it out. But there's no such thing as the perfect take, you know, the the perfect song. You just have to get to a place where that it should be well received. They should be able to hear the quality and hear that you put a lot into it. And I think that audiences, they don't listen to music the same way musicians listen to music. I'm listening to the mixing and the mastering and every little, fine detail. They're just listening to it to see if it's a good song and catch a good vibe, whether it's on the way to work or, while they're at the gym or whatever. They're not listening to it the same way. So I learned to stop being a perfectionist, but I know I'm at a level where I'm confident in my ability. And so I don't need to be as much of a perfectionist anymore.
Don't you feel like if you put with your backstory and everything, you put that bit where you sample stuff, and then that's just you. That's you getting into music, and then you show that progression. Of you now making stuff, because that's what people want to see as well. People don't want to see that perfect artist. I want to see your progression. Like, oh yeah, he started from this. Oh, now he's doing this. Do you mean like there's more to the story and there's more excitement, and like you said, you want to inspire people. That's an inspirational story right there, because like you said, you dropped out, you started sampling. Now you decided sampling ain't for me. I need to teach myself music, and you've gone into jazz and playing all of this stuff and composing, because it shows this process of you actually understanding music. You're not just this generic artist that just jumped in there. Everyone can say they compose. Do you know what I mean? So it sort of shows that story as well, and I think in a way it's, like I said, it's inspirational, because even whenever you send me stuff, I always say it to you did you make this? And you're like, yeah, you made everything. I'm like, oh shit, because I remember where you came from, nothing.
To be honest, I don't really regret not putting out my early work, the stuff that had the samples. It was a chapter in my life where I was still hung up on trying to be like someone else. And I know people like to see that story of, oh, look where he started and look where he is now. I know it makes for great entertainment to see how far you've come, but I would never have been proud of that work. I wanted to make original music. I want to make original music. That's what I'm doing now. And I just like the fact that I can come up with my own compositions, play an instrument, and hey, you never know, maybe you will hear some of the early stuff one day, but for now, no. I have a passion for playing as many instruments as possible. Currently, I play the piano and a little bit of guitar. I want to learn more. Why do I have this passion? Well, I feel like you have to, in life, challenge yourself. Why not? And I look at some of the greats that inspire me. D'Angelo, he plays multiple instruments and writes his own songs. And I just want to be able to say, I can do that as well. It's not about showing off or, arrogance or anything like that. It's just, why not? And I want to be able to get to a place where I don't have to rely on so many other people as well, and be able to say, well, I can do this. I can pick up the guitar and play that if I need to play a guitar piece. It's cheaper as well, so why not? What's the most that you can achieve? Maximize your full potential. I've always been a firm believer of that. And I want people to see, other musicians to see, wow, he plays piano, he plays guitar, drums, blah, blah, blah. I feel like that's the way I would get my respect, because look, the era that we're in, and I love the music, all types of music, genuinely, and I'm not just saying this, I listen to everything. But let's be honest, the era that we're in, there's not so much emphasis on playing instruments, and I want to be that guy who,
it's not all rounded.
But I want to make that cool, I want that to be. I know it's not going to have quite the same impact, but I want that to be like, I don't know, people find in a Drake song cool. I want, when they're chanting that, I want them to also look at, wow, you can play this, and that. And I want them to have that same kind of, reaction. I want that to be cool because, back in the day, I'm talking 50s, 60s, when jazz was cool. And you looked at these jazz greats, playing the piano. It was, that was the thing, And I don't know if we'll ever get back to that, but I want musicianship to be cool. And I want, and I want,
just like that computer generated.
Fellow musicians to look at that and be like, wow, you know what? That's a real musician. He knows what he's doing.
But with that, so you got fellow musicians and you got fans. So it's like you want to bring back make musicianship cool again. Where do you see that in terms of this kind of current singles culture? Like, so with this musicianship, are you talking to them as well, or just the fellow musicians?
I'm talking to everyone. I think, there's ways in which you can make it cooler. I mean, you look at Instagram's a prime example when people upload their music of just them playing around on their instruments and things like that. That's a way of getting it to a fan who's maybe used to just consuming a 10 to 15 second video. And they might be wowed by just that 10 to 15 seconds of you messing around on the keys or the guitar or whatever. So there's ways in which you can still tailor it to the younger audience, or this generation that perhaps are not as into that as they are other types of music. So it can still work. I can still show that is a cool thing. So I'm trying to get that to everyone, because as I say, it's about, so there's the respect thing, but then, like I say, there's also inspiring people, even non-musicians. I want people to look at me and say, well, he can do this and that. So that means I can do, and it doesn't have to be music related, but I was putting myself down thinking I couldn't do this, but he can do this and that. Okay, believe in yourself, I can do that. It's not easy, you have to be disciplined. But I just want to show people that, if you put your mind to something, you can do it. Because I've had so many conversations with fellow artists, and it's actually heartbreaking. Like, I say fellow artists, well, they're trying to be artists, but they don't believe in themselves. And they'll use the excuse of, I'm not that good, or I haven't got time, and I'm just like, well, this is what you wanted to do. If you're disciplined, you can do it. You can do anything you put your mind to. It's not unrealistic at all. To your average everyday 9-to-5 work, it might just look like a dream, but people are doing what you want to do, right? You've got examples out there already. They're doing it. They're living, breathing people doing what you want to do. Find out how they did it. And if that route doesn't work, find out how another person did it. And eventually there's going to be a route to success. It's not easy. It's going to be very difficult. There's going to be people telling you you're wasting your time. There's going to be people telling you, well, it's okay, but, Instagram's flooded with artists. What's the point? And there's going to be all types of things that's going to put you off. That's cool. But, if you stop every time someone tells you, you're not going to get anything done. My top 5 influences. Okay, so this is going to be very random. You've heard a couple names already, so I'll get them out the way first. D'Angelo and Jay Diller. I put them together. I'm cheating slightly. Going forward, when I get other guests on, it will be a top 5 segment, but mine's going to be 6 or maybe even 7 because it's my show and I can do what I want. But yeah, D'Angelo, Jay Diller, the grooves, man. It's when I listen to their music, I could easily break my neck. I'm just nodding my head so hard because it's just the grooves, and the chords that they have on top of those grooves. And D'Angelo, I go back to his Voodoo album. He had Questlove doing the drumming on that, and who is obviously influenced by many, but Jay Diller is one of Questlove's influences. So it has that kind of Jay Diller type feel as well. So it's all interlinked. And Diller, like I say, I mean my favorite songs of his, Climax, The Look of Love. He's produced for like De La Soul, Stakes is High. He's produced for so many people, Common, Farside, the list goes on. But for me, he is the dopest producer by far. And his groove, his drum programming, that's kind of my base. But obviously, I've got to come up with my own, significant style, individual style. And obviously, when I do my, piano playing and my compositions, that's where I, become me. But I'm heavily influenced by D'Angelo and Diller. Also, maybe a bit of a random one, Tupac. I think when I think back to my childhood in the 90s, it was just, all music just sounded better for me in the 90s, whether it was R&B, hip hop, jungle, drum and bass, garage, dance, pop. It was just amazing. But Tupac, I mention him because in 96, obviously when he passed, is when I just started getting into hip hop, and it was I mean, he was everywhere, wasn't he? You know, back then. And that kind of opened the door to me researching other hip hop groups and acts and things like that, whether it's De La Soul, obviously Biggie, Wu-Tang, Tribe Called Quest, Pharcyde, whatever. So I'd say he was the person that started it off for me in terms of getting into hip hop. And then through him, you know, it just opened up so many doors for me. Also, I would say Bob Marley. Obviously, Jamaican heritage. Both my parents are Jamaican, so Bob Marley is a must in the household. Obviously, there's others, Dennis Brown and people like Jimmy Cliff. But Bob Marley, I say because I love his writing style. It's simple but beautiful, and he has this kind of way with words, just mentioning everyday things, and you know, listening to songs like No Woman No Cry when he mentions the cornmeal porridge, and you could hear the crowd in the background react to it, because it's just they resonate with things like that. Do you know what I mean? And it's just simple everyday things, but they get it. Do you know what I mean? So Bob Marley, man, is a must. My favorite song of his is probably Waiting in Vain. Beautiful song. So he's definitely on the list. So we got Dilla, D'Angelo, Tupac, Bob Marley. I can't leave out Quincy Jones. For me, I mean, he does it all. Produces, composes, arranges. He played the trumpet in his early days. Maybe it was another horn instrument, but yeah, the trumpet, piano even as well. But, you know, his strengths lie in obviously production and composing and arranging. The stuff he's done with Michael Jackson obviously goes without saying. Thriller album, Off the Wall. But it's the things like the early stuff, Dizzy Gillespie, Count Basie, Sinatra he's worked with. I mean, he's worked with everyone. The complete producer for me. You know, if I can be half as good as he has and you know, sell half as much as Thriller did, you know, I would definitely consider it to be, you know, a great accomplishment. So yeah, I can't leave out Quincy Jones. Cheating slightly, I'm going to add in Bill Evans as well. So the way he plays his chords, he's a jazz pianist. He was a jazz pianist. Worked with Miles Davis, came up with the famous So What chord. And it's just so subtle the way he plays. You know, he can do the crazy scales, but he doesn't do that. You know, he's about the soft, subtle playing. That's how I interpret his music anyway. And that's a huge influence in terms of how I play piano as well. So I have to mention Bill Evans. So I've cheated, but yeah, had to throw him in. Favorite album, you know what? This is going to be really hard. I don't think I can answer this question. So there's too many, you know, because where do I start? Hip hop, jazz, neo soul, R&B. I don't know if I can mention a favorite album, but what I will say was my first album, and this is, you're not going to expect this. When I was I think I was 9, I had a CD player that I got from mum and dad for my birthday. And one of the first singles I had was Will Smith, Miami. But the first album I got was actually a compilation album. It was like Hits 1999. The first album I ever listened to. And this was before I was like into making music. So it wasn't really like, you know, my favorite batch of artists or anything. It was just the first album I managed to get from my CD player. You know, and that Christmas, actually, I got a PlayStation. I was spoiled, damn. I got a PlayStation and a CD player within 2 months. But I remember one Christmas, my cousins came around and we were playing FIFA 99 on the PlayStation, and we were just blasting this album. It was the compilation album, like I said, Hits 1999, and it had the Cher song on it. I think it's Do You Believe in Life After Love or something like that. And we were just singing it like to the top of our voices, man, while we were playing FIFA. And I just remember that so clearly. That was the first ever album I got. I love that track, I'm not gonna lie. So I can't give you my favorite album of all time, but that was my first album of all time, and I remember that very vividly, and that was a good time. So the plan for the future, I'm doing 2 albums. I'm producing Scarlett Fagan's debut album. I'm doing all the tracks for that. So I'm really looking forward to getting that out and having my, you know, followers listen to that. Also, my debut album, which will come out after Scarlett's, slightly different style, more funk based. Scarlett is more of a jazz soul singer. You know, my album will be it will be soulful as well, but more funk based as well, and R&B. So those are the 2 projects that I'm working on currently, as well as behind the scenes stuff, I'm putting out a kind of a mini series called the Dyer Diaries. It will show you the behind the scenes stuff of me making music, so you'll get an in-depth look into my, you know, composition process, starting from the piano and taking it to the studio and building the track from start to finish. So I'm looking forward to putting out, you know, those releases, and plenty more material to come. But you don't have to wait for those 2 albums. We'll be putting out singles as well before we drop the full album. So there's a lot of content coming your way. So that's me, Matthew Dyer. You've been watching the Canvas Café. We out.